My wife cheated, chose my business partner over me. Now she's begging to come back after he dumped her. My ex-wife, Rachel, 38F, and I, 38M, were together for 19 years and married for 16. We have a 14-year-old daughter, Mia. About 6 months ago, Rachel left us to be with my business partner, well, ex-business partner now, as he sold his shares and left the company after I discovered their affair. Andrew, my former business partner, and I had been co-workers and good friends for years, which led us to quit our jobs and start a company together. We ran the business for 5 years, but I discovered he had been having an affair with Rachel for 3 of those years. I found out about the affair 6 months ago after seeing some texts on Rachel's phone. When I confronted her, she didn't deny anything. She said she was tired of hiding it and wanted out of the marriage. I was completely blindsided by this revelation. I never realized Rachel was unhappy, and I was willing to do anything to save our marriage, especially for Mia's sake. The day I confronted her, she bluntly told me she was leaving, but I still begged her to reconsider, thinking we could work things out. It was a desperate move, I know, but I was grasping at straws. She grew impatient with me and said the only reason she had married me was that she got pregnant and didn't want to raise a child alone. She claimed she'd tried to love me for 16 years, but it never happened, and now she had found her true love in Andrew. She made it clear that she wasn't going to let me stand in her way and that I just needed to accept the situation and move on. Heartbroken, I was most concerned about our daughter, but Rachel didn't hesitate. She left us without looking back. She filed for divorce, and surprisingly, the proceedings were simple. She didn't ask for alimony or any significant settlement, and the division of assets was fair. Within a few months, our divorce was finalized. In time, I came to my senses and realized that after what had happened, there was no salvaging our marriage. Heartbroken, I was most concerned about our daughter, but Rachel didn't hesitate. She left us without looking back. She filed for divorce, and surprisingly, the proceedings were simple. She didn't ask for alimony or any significant settlement, and the division of assets was fair. Within a few months, our divorce was finalized. In time, I came to my senses and realized that after what had happened, there was no salvaging our marriage. After the divorce papers were filed, I confronted Andrew. He apologized, saying he had wanted to confess earlier, but didn't know how to go about it. Within weeks, he resigned and informed me that he and Rachel planned to move to Boston to avoid causing me further distress. Rachel had secured a good job there, and Andrew's cousin had a business where he could work. He explained everything in an email, and that was the last time we communicated. The last I saw of Rachel was 2 months ago, on the day our divorce was finalized. Since then, neither of them had reached out. It was a challenging time for me, but we were managing. The business kept me occupied, and I was determined to provide Mia with the future she deserved. Then, about a week ago, Rachel showed up unexpectedly, and I'm still trying to figure out if Mia and I handled it the right way. One night around 11 p.m., someone started frantically ringing our doorbell and knocking. Mia was already in bed, and I was wrapping up some work in my office. We both rushed to the door, and through the window, we saw Rachel. Mia immediately asked me not to let her in because she was still upset with her mother. Despite Rachel having partial custody, she had made no effort to maintain contact with Mia, and the affair had deeply affected their relationship. I figured if Rachel was here this late, it must be urgent, so I opened the door. Instead of stepping inside, Rachel stood on the doorstep, yelling that she would sue me and take me to court to get what she deserved, accusing me of punishing her. I was completely taken aback and asked her to slow down and explain because I was lost. She continued, fuming, claiming I had hidden Andrew's true nature from her to make her pay for her infidelity. She rolled up her sleeve, revealing a bandaged spot on her arm, and I quickly understood Andrew must have hurt her. This was a shock because during all our years working together, I'd never seen him lose his temper. Rachel explained that ever since they moved to Boston, things had been rough. She thought it was just Andrew adjusting to their new life, but even after a month, he acted like everything was her fault. He blamed her for making him leave the business he had worked so hard to build and for having to work with his cousin, who constantly belittled him. He accused her of ruining his life because she revealed the affair before he was ready and moved for her job, forcing him to give up his stake in the business. Their arguments escalated every night, and on the night before she came to our door, Andrew had lost his temper, throwing a vase at her. She tried to dodge, but it hit her arm, causing a cut. Until then, he had only been verbally abusive, but this crossed a line. Rachel left that night and took the first flight back here to talk to me. She told me Andrew hadn't even tried to reach out or apologize after she left. She blamed me for not warning her about Andrew's temper, accusing me of keeping it a secret to punish her for cheating. She even said I should have her back because she had been kind during the divorce by not asking for more than she did. It was absurd. I had known Andrew professionally for years, but that didn't mean I knew every facet of his personal life. Her accusations were baseless and frustrating, as if I owed her something. I explained that I had no idea about Andrew's behavior and expressed my sympathy, but I reminded her that she made her own choices. She could threaten lawsuits all she wanted, but she knew deep down that I wasn't to blame for her situation. Rachel continued to argue, insisting I knew everything, and was intentionally trying to make her suffer. Meanwhile, Mia had been standing nearby, listening to the whole argument. I'd almost forgotten she was there, so caught up in the chaos. Suddenly, Mia cut in and told Rachel to leave. I was surprised by Mia's boldness, and even Rachel seemed taken aback. Rachel told Mia to stay out of it, saying she was too young to understand, but Mia stood her ground. She told Rachel she had no right to speak to me that way after everything she had put us through. Mia called out her mother, saying that while I had been heartbroken after discovering the affair, Rachel had just selfishly moved on without a second thought. She reminded Rachel that she hadn't even bothered to visit or keep in touch with her own daughter because she was too caught up in her new life with Andrew. Mia told her mother she had failed both as a wife and a mother and had no right to act like a victim in a situation she created. Mia is only 14, but hearing her speak like that made me realize how much she had matured through this ordeal. Rachel was stunned into silence, clearly not expecting this from Mia. Finally, Mia said that since Rachel had chosen to be with Andrew, she needed to face the consequences of her choices alone, as we were no longer her family. She slammed the door in Rachel's face and returned to her room. I could hear Rachel crying outside, but I felt no need to check on her after our conversation. I went back to bed feeling a strange mix of pride and sadness and focused on work over the next few days to avoid thinking about it too much. Things seemed to settle down after that, but 3 days ago, Rachel showed up again. This time she brought a lawyer, demanding full custody of Mia. Fortunately, Mia was out with friends, so she didn't witness this. I was furious when Rachel arrived, claiming that Mia's disrespect during their last encounter was unacceptable and that she was now determined to take Mia away from me. Rachel argued that the reason she hadn't kept in touch with Mia after the affair was to avoid a drawn-out custody battle and not to add more stress to my life, which is why she left quietly. She tried to make it seem like she was doing it all for my sake and wasn't just running away from her responsibilities. I wasn't buying her story. I told her the only reason she didn't fight for custody or anything else in the divorce was that she wanted to start fresh with Andrew as quickly as possible. This had nothing to do with me, despite how she tried to spin it. But Rachel was adamant. She wanted full custody now and would ensure she got it. She accused me of poisoning Mia against her and teaching her to disrespect her mother. She argued that Mia had been incredibly rude the last time, and instead of disciplining her, I had encouraged it. She said she was prepared to go to court over this. I told her to go ahead and shut the door, not wanting to waste any more time on her threats. Still, I wondered if maybe I was wrong. Was I encouraging Mia's behavior? Was I handling this the right way? I wasn't sure of anything anymore. So, am I the asshole for not reprimanding my daughter when she was rude to her mother, my ex-wife? Update 1. I've decided that I have nothing to apologize for. Mia did exactly what she needed to do by standing up for me, and reading the comments made me realize I wasn't wrong. Rachel betrayed me. I don't owe her any sympathy or guilt. Many people suggested I should talk to Mia about the custody issue beforehand, so she wouldn't be caught off guard if Rachel followed through. I spoke to Mia yesterday and laid everything out for her. I don't want any secrets between us. She's already shown how mature she is, even if it breaks my heart that she's had to grow up so fast because of this mess. We haven't heard from Rachel since, but I'm sure we will soon. Mia is 14, which is old enough for her preference to be considered in court if it comes to that. We might resolve this in mediation, which would be ideal, but I wanted to ensure Mia really wanted to stay with me. She does, of course. She's made it clear she doesn't want anything to do with Rachel, at least not now. She might consider reconnecting in the future, but for now, everything is too raw. She blames her mother for tearing our family apart, and I can't disagree, it's the truth. I don't want to be the kind of dad who turns his kid against her other parent out of spite, but Rachel has done that job herself. Mia has chosen to distance herself from Rachel, and they were so close before all this happened. It's clear Rachel is upset that Mia is on my side because she always tried to be closer to her. For those asking how Mia found out about the affair, it wasn't from me, it was from Rachel. She told Mia in an email a few days after she moved out without even asking if I was okay with it. Mia was devastated but still wanted to talk to her mom. However, Rachel refused. When I tried to reach out on Mia's behalf, Rachel said she was too busy with the divorce and didn't think it was appropriate. She said everything she needed to in that email and had nothing more to add. I tried to convince her to talk to Mia because she had so many questions, but Rachel wouldn't budge. After that, she cut off contact completely, so Mia's perception of her changed drastically. It's not fair for Rachel to blame me for that. Anyway, I've talked to my lawyer and we're ready to handle whatever comes next. Update 2. A few days ago, I was officially served with a notice for full custody from Rachel, and my lawyer and I quickly responded by contesting it. We have a court-appointed mediation session tomorrow, but before that, Andrew called me today. I was shocked to see his name on my phone, but I answered. He asked me to send Rachel back to him, saying he'd been trying to reach her for days and thought she must have been with me. He wanted me to tell him where she was. I wasn't doing this to help Andrew, and just to be clear, but I figured if he spoke to Rachel, he might convince her to drop this whole custody fight. Maybe he could even get her to sign away her rights over Mia. So I told him everything, including that she was upset he hadn't contacted her after she left. I suggested he should act fast if he wanted her back. He was clueless, didn't suspect I was playing him, so it worked out in my favor. I'm just hoping Rachel still wants to make things work with him and leaves us alone. I told my lawyer about this plan and he agreed it was a good move. Even though things were already leaning in our favor, there's no harm in saving ourselves time and hassle before this goes to court. Update 3. 2 days ago, we had our first mediation session, and as expected, it didn't go well. Rachel didn't agree with anything and dismissed the session within 30 minutes, claiming it was all pointless. Afterward, I picked Mia up from school, and when we got home, Andrew was waiting on our doorstep. He looked terrible, which isn't surprising after being with Rachel for months. I told him he needed to leave because Mia and I wanted to unwind after a long day. I wasn't going to entertain the guy who had an affair with my wife, but he broke down saying he hadn't heard from Rachel since their last fight and didn't know where to find her. I repeated that I had no idea where she was living and couldn't help him. He sat on the porch steps crying into his hands, and I started getting irritated. This man and Rachel had wrecked my life, and now he wanted my help to fix his mess? I told Mia to go inside so I could handle it. Once she was in, I told Andrew he needed to leave because I was done with them both. To get him off my back, I gave him Rachel's parents' contact information and suggested he try them if he couldn't reach her. I told him he'd ruined my life with Rachel, and I never wanted to see him again. He tried to apologize, saying he never meant to hurt me, but he fell in love with her and couldn't help it. I wasn't interested in hearing his excuses, so I stayed silent, and he left. I feel so drained and confused that I barely know what I'm doing with my life right now. I just hope Andrew and Rachel work things out for their sake and ours. If they do, maybe they'll leave Mia and me alone, and I can finally start moving on. At this point, I'm just numb and desperately want this ordeal to end. Update 4. A couple of days ago, Rachel ended our mediation sessions, insisting she wanted our case to go to court, which wouldn't end well for her, and she knows it. Anyway, she showed up today with Andrew. I guess they managed to patch things up. I didn't invite them in because Mia was home and not feeling it well, so I didn't want to make things worse for her. I told them to wait at a nearby cafe, called my mom to watch Mia, and then met them at the cafe to talk. When I arrived, Rachel and Andrew apologized for everything they'd done, but I wasn't interested. I told them to cut to the chase. They admitted they had made a mistake by betraying me and were miserable in Boston. Rachel missed Mia, and Andrew wanted to be his own boss again. They proposed I send Mia to visit Rachel every weekend, or at least every other weekend, because Rachel didn't want to lose her current life. Andrew's suggestion was even more ridiculous. He wanted to come back as a business partner and open a branch in Boston. They even wanted me in a quick decision because Rachel's employer had told her she needed to return to the office if she wanted to keep her job. They gave me a deadline of just a few days. I told them flat out that I wasn't agreeing to any of it. Andrew had resigned and sold his shares. It was all on paper. I wasn't taking him back as I couldn't trust him anymore. Rachel's idea was absurd because Mia didn't deserve to be shuttled back and forth just to see her mother. Rachel should have thought of that before moving to Boston. This wasn't my problem. They tried to negotiate, saying they wanted to avoid a court battle, but I told them their chances of winning in court were slim to none. The only reason they wanted to talk in person was to manipulate me, but I wasn't falling for it. I came to this meeting to end things. That shut them up quickly. I made it clear that the best I could offer was to talk to Mia about possibly meeting Rachel when she visited, but that was it. They could either accept it or leave, because I wasn't wasting any more time. Rachel, looking desperate, agreed, and I left. I'll talk to Mia when she's feeling better, but I won't pressure her into anything she doesn't want to do. If she decides not to see Rachel again, that's her choice, and I'll support it. Update 5. It's been a few months since my last update, and as I mentioned, I wasn't going to force Mia to meet with Rachel if she didn't want to. I spoke to Mia and told her what I'd offered Rachel. Mia said she needed time to think about it, so I let her make her own decision. I told Rachel this, and since then, there's been no contact. I have no idea if she and Andrew resolved their issues, and honestly, I don't care. From what I hear, they're still in Boston. Good for them, I suppose. At least they've left us alone, and I can finally focus on moving forward. The best revenge is living well, so that's exactly what I'm doing. Dedicating myself to my work and raising Mia to be a kind, decent person, unlike her mother. I'm determined to succeed in that. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our stories and would like to hear more, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you captivating tales and new content every week. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We appreciate every one of you for being a part of our storytelling journey.